Oh, yeah, okay.
Sticking to, so I'm giving. There you go.
in her seventies up in Woodsong somewhere that was an avid walker.
Yeah.
And she,
Tracy, Simon,
really?
yeah. When she passed away?
Yeah, she came down with pancreatic cancer?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. She was Sid Anderson's significant other, and she's real close to, Scott Klein's wife.
Yeah, Laura.
They're really, like.
And that was like all within 3 weeks, right?
Yeah, Trey, pardon me?
All within like 3 weeks.
Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
Donna and I
You know that
saw
there's
her
an
walking,
executive
and we
session
could always wave to her.
after council, right?
If we weren't on it ourselves.
Yes.
We're gonna need a state permit.
I know, I know, and I hate going, wait,
Yeah.
She was fast.
talk about, and I don't know that much about it. And I don't want Tom and me.
Laura walks with her a lot, or you walk with her a lot.
Hey, it's not a fun disease.
If you don't mind, you could probably leave right after that if you wanted to. Okay. Oh, that's right, you were the smart person and took off tomorrow.
How's it going?
Good.
Some good.
I was gonna question our cops, quality of our police if they didn't come over and get something to eat every time.
He just told us. I was actually waiting for her list, but I'm not gonna wait for him anymore.
Big two, they're small.
All right, I think is Joe coming tonight?
No, he's,
Nope.
off today.
Okay, great,
Aaron.
okay.
Want some chips from over there?
There's a whole bag, you wanna take them?
Got a big bag.
Okay, we'll bring the meeting to order. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda tonight? Aaron? Okay. Could I have a, excuse me, a motion to accept the minutes from our April 8th, 2021 meeting?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, they're accepted, and we'll get on with the, there being no old business, we'll go on to new business, personnel.
Under personnel, we're asking or recommending a wage increase for Patrick Cooney, our part-time officer. He is getting ready to complete his training. His last day of training is May 30th. We're asking for this increase because he has excelled. He's passed every aspect of the training that we've asked him to do and done it with flying colors. He's actually surprised us quite a bit in what he's been able to pick up as quickly as he's been able to pick up. He's doing a great job. He has turned down some full-time offers to stay here with us at Middlefield, at least while he's continuing his schooling. And we feel, after we put all this training into him to keep him, that this would be the right step to take, is to bump up his wage to $19 an hour.
From 17.
I think he's like
1730, maybe?
Yeah, right around there, 1731 maybe.
When's the schooling done?
He's got another year minimum before he's done, and that's if he continues to go now and through the summer. He is scheduled for this summer. He said he might have one class next summer quarter, which would take him until August before he completes his degree.
So how you gonna keep them past that?
Well, we're hoping that at the $19 an hour, that's convincing enough. He really wants to stay here. He's had
But he's
some-
still part-time, right?
He is. He's had some lucrative offers. He just passed up the Klein Seven Hills this week when they offered him full-time. That's pretty close to where he lives, and they pay really well. But his heart's here in Middlefield. He wants to stay here. Says he wants to wait until there's a full-time opening. We'd really like to hang on to him if we can.
How many hours is he working a week?
We're,
Part-time.
we're keeping him, because he's part-time, right around 76 hours of pay or so.
It's almost full-time work.
It is during training. Now, once he finishes training, no, we don't have it in our budget to keep him that many hours
That level.
year-long, no.
What would you anticipate then?
Well, we anticipate he's going to work every Sunday, 2 to 10, because that's our cover shift when guys have their 8-hour day, their short day. He's going to fill that gap so that we're not left with one officer working. Sundays have been extremely busy for us lately, when, in that gap, when one officer is here. We're going to have him fill that and then fill in as needed, as officers request time off. And we're getting ready to go into prime vacation season. As a matter of fact, in June, we've got a bunch of guys in training. He's filling a lot of shifts in June to help us with that.
Are all our officers back that were off with the coronavirus?
Yes.
Okay.
So can I work part-time here and full-time somewhere else
Yes.
as a police officer, right?
Yes. As long as.
Do any of our guys do that?
No, we don't have anybody currently doing that. Tiffany was.
So
doing
why,
that.
why doesn't he do that?
Well, he's going to school full-time right now, and he could do that, and he could do that down the road. As long as, he can't work for Geauga County Sheriff's Office. He can't have 2 commissions like that in the same county. But he could work for Bainbridge or Chardon or something.
He could take a Seven Hills job and still work here
Correct,
on
yes.
Sundays or whatever it's like. But none of our officers are working somewhere else part-time?
No.
So, okay, so do we need to take that to council?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make the motion, we take this to council to increase the pay for Officer Cooney to $19 an hour.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Leslie?
By motion,
Here?
ordinance.
Yeah, so council doesn't, council have to confirm it? All right.
Apologize, give me one moment.
I vote myself a raise then if I have that much authority.
We do not have that authority.
I think you do have other authorities within the police
That's
department.
like somebody asked me for a raise, and I go, I don't have that kind of authority.
All right, so you're going to look into that, Leslie?
Yeah, give me.
Whether we need, okay. Well, can,
I'll recommend it to council. We're going to bring it up anyhow because
All right.
I wanted to get the publicity there as well. I mean, should talk about it there as well.
okay, training that's in progress?
Yeah, training's really kicked off now. We've worked really hard on finding some classes that were free, but in the areas that we need them in. The county stepped up and offered some throughout, either through Prosecutor Flaze's office or through the Chesterland Police Department. We found some others that weren't very expensive. So at this point, all but one guy has been through at least one training. They've all got multiple scheduled through the year, with the exception of the chief and I. We're still looking for some more geared towards leadership for us. And those really aren't on the books yet. Nothing's opened up yet because of COVID, but I expect that to open in the fall.
Sure.
You know, what I'd like to see one time from if you can put together a matrix of the training that you guys do all year. I mean, we come here every month, we talk about you're doing training, and quite frankly, it goes over my head. If I can see it in black and white, you know, what training you're having and who's had it, who hasn't had it, and all that, it'll mean more to me. Otherwise, you know, I'm glad we're being trained, but I don't know what we're being trained on.
Sure. So actually, right now, Sergeant Aveni is putting that together. She's putting together a spreadsheet and a list that incorporates all the training we've had over the years.
Oh, wonderful.
And breaks it down by year. And our goal was to have that in a year-end report for you guys at the end of this year.
Oh,
So that you
okay.
had something to look at.
Luke's fired. I just saw him stick his head around the end of that building. They didn't know how to get in the building. He's at the end of the fire department.
I'm
I
gonna,
was here for the interview.
um,
I'm starting to get worried.
the mayor.
Apparently, Tom didn't train him enough.
Now you know enough to park
Oh,
over
got
here? You're not going to find him, Leslie. Don't worry about it. You sure? He'll find his way in.
Aaron, is
This is a good test.
Officer Cooney out on his own yet or no?
He's in what we call the shadow phase, so he's in a car by himself.
Okay.
And his FTO follows up behind. It gives him the opportunity to take the lead on the call, and then she arrives once he started the call, just to make sure he's still on the right track, and
Okay, all right, thank you.
she hasn't had any complaints at all.
Statistics. So when do you think Aventi will have the, that matrix done? I know
Not
you
sure, I just
mentioned,
approached her about it, probably not even a week ago. I think it was last Friday when I asked her to start putting that together, so it's gonna take a little time.
so maybe, you know, and I appreciate you going back in time, but for Sam's purpose, maybe you could just do what's happening in 2021? And maybe when you and Joe find the leadership programs, maybe just add that you're looking?
Okay.
That was a good idea, Sam.
I've said to go get him.
Statistics, thanks.
Okay, so you guys have the statistics in front of you there. We're still low on our traffic stops, our citations. I don't see that changing until all of the sanctions are lifted for COVID. We have seen an influx in drugs on traffic stops. We've had a couple of traffic stops this month where we've seized quite a bit of drugs out of them. Those drugs are at the labs right now. Labs really backed up. They're down 11 analysts, so we probably won't have the results back for 6 to 8 months on those. In each case, though, the people that we stopped tell us, yes, it's heroin. We can't go by their word. We have to wait until we get the lab results before we can charge them with that. But on one stop alone, they pulled about 200 grams out, which is quite a bit.
So there's not a field test that you can like drop something on it, a liquid on it, and it turns a certain color, it's heroin?
There are, but those are not admissible in court.
Well, they're not?
No.
Got to be done by a lab in order to,
So those people were just let go?
So in each case, we had other charges that we were able to charge them with that weren't related to the drugs at hand, and they went to jail on those charges, so at least we had something on them. But the problem is, if we were to arrest them on something drug-related, it starts the clock. If they don't waive their time for a speedy trial, then the prosecutor only has like 90 days or so to bring that case through and into court, and we won't have labs back anywhere near that time.
Really, it's taken that long, huh?
now, is that a lab through the state or?
Yeah, that's through the state crime lab. Occasionally, depending on the case, we can use the Lake County Crime Lab, but that's pretty expensive. We typically don't do that on a regular drug case. Now, if we were to have an overdose or something like that, we might look at that avenue, because if we wait for the BCI lab results and you're talking 6 to 8 months, that's a long way to wait when you've got somebody who's passed away because of a drug overdose. You know, at that point, a lot of information's stale and stalled.
So these amounts are like personal consumption, or are they?
No,
for
no,
sale, intent
yeah,
for
this
sale?
is for sale, yeah.
So is the additional charge trafficking?
Yes.
Okay, you want to continue with the statistics?
Hang on a sec here. Okay, so as I said, you know, our citations are down. Charges are up from last year significantly. Last year at this time, we had 17. We're up to 49 already this year. A lot of that is some of that drug-related stuff, though, that we talked about. It's finding some criminal things while we're on traffic stops. Crashes are pretty much the same. OVIs are the same. Our call for service, we're still down, but last year, if you go back and compare that to some, or actually we're up this year, but if you go back and compare it to years past, last year was a busy year for us at this point in the year, pre-COVID, January, February, and then just the very beginning of March was kind of an anomaly compared to the years past. And I'm sorry, this year we're already exceeding that for our calls for service.
Thefts?
Yes, we haven't,
You have any issues with central dispatch?
nothing out of the normal, nothing outside of what we've had for years now. They're hurting right now for staffing, though. We did have some bad advice on a call here recently from one of the dispatchers, but we shouldn't have been asking her to give us that advice. It was a newer officer who made a mistake, asked the dispatcher what she thought, she gave some advice, and it was bad advice. But otherwise, no. I mean, they're just hurting for staffing right now.
The thefts, were they at your usual, the Walmart?
Yeah, and we haven't really had that many. And compared to the Walmart in Chardon or the Walmart in Bainbridge, I mean, they're going to Bainbridge every day, multiple times a day for calls for thefts. The one in Chardon's, a couple times a week. We're not seeing that here. Part of the problem, though, is we don't have a dedicated loss prevention officer at this Walmart. They have a manager that's one of his duties, but he's a manager, so he's not sitting in the booth watching the cameras and watching people. He's managing the store and then trying to do loss prevention on top of it.
Any idea how our shrinkage compares to theirs?
No, I haven't heard yet. They do have a new manager there, though, who's very friendly with us. We'll reach out to her when she gets a better feel for what's going on, and we'll talk about that with her and see if there's any ways that we can help her. I've got some ideas of some things that we did at previous agency I worked at that really worked well. So maybe we'll impose some of those with her and see if we can stop some of that shrinkage.
I think if I was a thief, I'd go where there's no loss prevention officer. So I think the thefts would be higher here than there.
Well,
So
I'm
the shrinkage is double what it is theirs because they're catching them, and we're not here, which is their problem, not ours, but.
Okay. Crimes, any crimes in specific that you'd like to bring to our attention?
No, we have a few that we're working that I can't really talk about yet because it'd be public record, but we've got a few coming down the pipe. Nothing major, just a few that we're wrapping it up and finishing up here.
What did you do with the sixth grader who was threatening people to stab him in the neck?
So that is up at the prosecutor's office for a recommendation of charges. So with the
Try him as an adult.
Well, they're not going to do that, but the prosecutor ultimately decides what charges are filed. We've sent the case out. They've had the case now for quite some time. We had it finished in just a couple of days. So they'll run it through the court.
That kid back in school?
As far as I know, no. They were off school for quite a while, and then they had a hearing yesterday. I haven't heard the outcome of the hearing yet for expulsion.
Now, is the expulsion hearing with the court or with the school?
With the school.
But the grade fixer, is that solved?
It's not up to court yet. We are very close. We got some more evidence in today. We're waiting on some subpoenas to come back. It's all pointing in the direction that we believe it's going. Every time we get a piece of evidence back, it kind of adds to it that that's who it was that did it.
Which one was that? Ted?
If you can't talk about it, I can't remember where I heard it. Maybe I shouldn't be bringing it up.
Never mind.
Yeah, that's one of those ones that's coming down the pipe that I'm sure we'll talk about here in the near future.
Remember where I heard it, but I'm not sure the environment I heard it in, so.
Equipment? Vehicle?
So the Tahoe, I just talked with them this week. It's delayed again. June 25th is the projected date for that to come now. It's been delayed on parts. There's some chips that they're waiting on before they can finish building it. We just started getting some of the pieces and parts in that we have to have installed once we get it. So that's encouraging that we're starting to get those because I was worried that those were going to be delayed as well. Everybody's telling us that COVID's kind of put everything into a backspin, but we're starting to get some of those pieces and some of the more important pieces. So I'm happy that that's happening.
Any danger of expiration of funds? Wasn't that CARES money that bought that?
No, there was a bill that extended it, so we have through the end of the year for those funds to make sure that we get them spent. But there's also a provision for materials, which the vehicle comes under in case of this. And in case this did happen 4 months ago, I already had a legal opinion drawn up that put this project underneath that. So we're good to go on that aspect if it takes a long time to get it.
Thanks, Leslie. Walmart grant?
Well, if we could back up just to equipment and vehicles. So we're in a bind right now. We talked about this a couple months ago, and we really need to project forward going down the road here. At some point, we're going to need to consider adding another vehicle to the fleet. Our current unit number 1 has a lot of issues with it. We only use it as a last-ditch effort when we need a vehicle, but I worry about it if we were to get into a pursuit with it, how well it's going to hold up. So typically, I'll drive that so that our first-line guys can have one of the better vehicles. Unit 3 has been in the shop quite a bit this month. Luckily, everything's been covered under warranty. It's in the shop as we speak, so what happens is we go down to 2 vehicles, which means we're driving them 24/7. And over the course of the last month, we've really added miles onto them because of that. I think it would be beneficial if, at some point later this year, we discuss adding one more vehicle into the fleet so that we're not adding miles on so quickly onto these cars. Unit 4 has the second most miles. It's right at 80,000 right now. The other 2 you guys bought, I think, 2 years ago, so they're just under 30,000 miles. Those 2 are good, and those should hold us for a while, but Unit 4, at this time next year, is going to be up over 100,000 miles.
What year is Unit 3?
That's a 14, a 2000, or I'm sorry, no, Unit 3 is one of the newer ones. I think that's an 18.
You said the repairs are being handled under warranty, so it must be 3 years, about 3 years?
Yeah. I think that's, well, it could be a 19. I'm not sure what those two are. You guys bought them both at the same time, though.
I think they're 19s.
They could be, yeah.
Unit 1, what year is that? Is that the one you said has the most problems?
Yes, Unit 1 has the most. That's a 2014. It's got 102,000 miles on it right now. And we've barely driven it since November-ish. We had some quotes on the work to put into it, but for what they're talking to put in for it, it'd be more beneficial to go out and look for a used vehicle somewhere else or possibly a new one as opposed to dump this much money into that one with that many miles.
Do you comply with the manufacturer's preventive maintenance schedule?
Yes.
So the 30,000 point, you got the car in for half a day, probably.
Well,
Filters changed and tires rotated and what have you.
yep. Yeah, well, Unit 3's been there. It's experienced a lot of issues that were covered under warranty. Bolts breaking on the fan would be one of them. The dipstick broke on it, and it dropped the metal part of the dipstick down into it, so they had to take that apart to get that out. It's had some issues with ball joints, some other CV joint or something like that. I'm not real familiar with cars, but it's had a lot of issues for the amount of miles that are on it.
How many miles are on it?
It's under 30,000. I think that one's around 26 or 27,000.
If we're having that many problems with it, is there any way to go after them under the lemon law, or are we excluded from that?
No, we're not excluded from it. I haven't looked into it. This is all fresh. It just happened this month.
No, I
so-
understand that, but you know what? Before we get further down the line, I think we should check into that.
Well, we can take a look at that.
Because obviously, it sounds like it's being a problem vehicle.
Yeah, I'm not so certain though if it's the vehicle or if it's where we had it worked on. That's the issue. We're still trying to determine that.
Now, if it's warranty, it goes to the dealer, correct?
It does, unless it's for an oil change or tire rotations, things like that. We do that here locally.
Okay, who's the dealer that does the warranty work?
Classic Ford and Mentor.
Okay, anything else on the vehicles?
No, that's it.
Okay,
You're suggesting you add a vehicle to the number?
Yes, so currently we have 4 marked
You wanna go to
vehicles.
5?
Yes. Yes, and that'll put, right now we have one vehicle that has 3 people driving it, so it kind of throws it out of rhythm as we start adding the miles up on it, where the other ones only have 2. And we try and stagger that around a little bit, move that third person around, but,
You've got 2 shifts of 2 people, right?
right. Mhm. Yeah, and then during the day, there's,
That warrants 5 vehicle. I just can't connect the dots.
well, you have to remember when,
Have it so when it goes in for an oil change, you got a car to drive? That doesn't make sense to me.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last part, but,
If it's because you want to have a car, when you have something in for repair, you need a backup car, that doesn't make sense to me.
no, it's so, like right now, if we have a car, we're down to 2 cars right now, and there's 3 of us working during the day.
But you got a Tahoe coming,
Correct.
right?
Right, and then we're gonna lose one vehicle, and then I'm saying at this time next year, we're probably gonna lose another vehicle.
I say I can see replace. I have trouble going to 5.
Okay.
mentally I have a problem. I'm not saying it doesn't make sense, it just doesn't make sense to me right now. So when you got two guys on a shift, you got two cars running, and you got 5 vehicles, or you want 5 vehicles.
Yeah, you have to remember though, sometimes we have more than 2, sometimes we have 3 or 4.
Why is that?
When I'm working during the day, that adds a third guy. If we have somebody who is in training, that's a day training, that adds a 4th guy. Or if
They
they're on
take
a
their own
special-
cars? They take their own cars to training?
Some do, some don't. If they do, and they ask for it, we have to pay them the mileage for that.
No, I'd rather pay the mileage and buy an additional car to have.
Yeah, sometimes we have guys on special assignment, or we have the detective that's in working on days off, working on cases.
To me, it'd have to be justified, and on the surface, it looks like it's not needed, because we had the issue before, we had a car sitting here when you went to seminars, like, what a waste of money. We paid about $4,000 a mile for that thing. It sat, the maintenance was high on it because it sat too much. We rarely used it. The capital investment wasn't anywhere. I could have had you chauffeur-driven, cheaper. So, all right.
Now, Aaron, we have 4 cruisers, right? But then Joe's is kind of like a cruiser and a service vehicle, correct?
It's marked, but he can't use it for any traffic enforcement the way that it's marked right now.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. But that's a vehicle that can be used for, but is he the only one that uses that?
Yes,
Okay, all right.
I drove it today, I hated it, but that's another story.
All right, Walmart grant?
Yes, so Nick, you walked in at perfect timing. So we received a grant from Walmart for $2,500 to update our squad room in the back. I have the check here with me. Basically, though, it's my belief it has to go in the general fund, and I don't know how we spend it from there. So that's why I wanted to discuss that in today's meeting.
I think first we'll need a motion to accept the, do we do it here?
Go in and out, just like everything else.
That?
It's got to go in and out like everything else. You got to take the money, stick it in, it's got to be monitored out just like anything else we collect.
There's a line item for it.
Yeah.
It's not a big,
Yeah.
and I think they wanted to use it to update the squad room, which it's looking really good over there, so I think it'd be a cool project.
Does this committee approve that, or does the whole council approve accepting that money?
Council?
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I would have council just do it as a motion. You could do it that way if you wanted to.
All right.
Aaron, is there anything else?
What prompted that?
The Walmart grant?
Yeah.
So Walmart offers it every year. We're out looking for grants for different things that we want or need. Walmart was really sold on us updating our squad room. They wanted to help with that. They actually gave us more than what we were asking for, which is going to allow us to do a few more things with it.
So what are you going to do to it?
So we are adding a television there that's going to be used for our webinar trainings. If we do a webinar training, as opposed to sending a guy out to school, it's a lot cheaper for us. We were using the computer monitor out last month, and it was just difficult for everybody to see because it was a small monitor. So we're adding that. We're adding a workstation for when we have the part-time guy working or when we're working one of those bigger cases. When we're all back there together, it allows us all to work back together, bounce ideas off of each other. We're going to tie that workstation into that television so that we have dual uses for it. And then we're also going to use that. That's going to display our CAD screen 24 hours a day when it's not being used as a workstation. So when we walk in from outside, the screen's already up there. We can see if a call's come in, and we can get details on it almost immediately that way, as opposed to having to log into the computer at one of the workstations to get to that information.
Okay, anything in general? Anything you want to cover under general discussion?
No.
Anything else? Anybody have any questions for Aaron? Thank you, Aaron. Is there any need for executive session? A short one. Okay. All right, could I have a motion to meeting adjourn? Okay,
Second.
we're adjourned. Thank you.